Hello everyone. Well, this is a very exciting moment. Plymouth is broadcasting to the rest of the world about social enterprise. I think that's quite a cool moment in history. My name is Bebe, and I am one of the founders and directors of Crowdfunder. And my job is communications, and because it's a startup and because it's all very exciting, I do a bit of everything else as well, so including ordering coffee and so on. So I'm here to talk about crowdfunding, which is actually a really interesting thing for social enterprise, and isn't anymore something that is a niche or something that's kind of at the periphery of what goes on. It's actually something that is growing and growing, and I'm here to persuade you that if you're a social enterprise or you're engaged in encouraging and growing social enterprise in any way whatsoever, you should consider including crowdfunding in your plans because of what it can do for what you're trying to achieve. So if I just explain a little bit about Crowdfunder, we have a community of over 100,000 crowdfunders. We set up about 2.5 years ago. We were literally in time-honoured startup fashion. It was the back of a fag packet and a great idea, and hey, this is really cool, let's do it. And from virtually nothing, it actually all kind of started over in Plymouth at Royal William Yard was kind of one of the places it started where we got together and thought this is a great idea, let's go for it. And we've grown from virtually zero to a community of about 100,000 crowdfunders across the UK. In the last 2 years or so, we've supported over 11,000 projects. So that's quite a chunky number, and it's growing like this. And we've raised, this slide says £4 million for crowdfunding projects. We've actually raised £4.5 million to date, and we're kind of looking ambitiously at £5 million, thinking that would be good. And it's looking very achievable. So that's £5 million from real people's pockets that they've taken to back a great idea. Crowdfunding is growing by 300% every year. So it kind of started in America. There was a platform called Kickstarter that you might have heard of. That was closely followed by Indiegogo, and Crowdfunder really is the British version of that. So we're British and we're proud, and we're actually now the #1 rewards-based crowdfunding platform from a standing start 2 years ago. So think Dragon's Den, I'll give you a bit of equity if you give me some money. The most famous example of that, and actually the world leaders, is a platform called Crowdcube that we actually are partnered with. Crowdcube is based in Exeter, so another South-based business leading the world in an emerging industry, so that's kind of cool and interesting. The second form is peer-to-peer lending, where people borrow money online from lots of people rather than from the bank. That's becoming incredibly popular. And that also includes a form of fundraising called mini bonds, where people are starting to raise mini bonds for projects. And finally, there's rewards-based crowdfunding, that's us. And rewards-based crowdfunding is actually the only sort of crowdfunding that helps startups, so helps sort of small entities that perhaps aren't a limited company, that perhaps aren't constituted. With crowdfunding, you can just be an individual with a great idea. And I think that's where it genuinely starts to have an impact at the grassroots of community and enterprise. It really gets people going. And it's for anybody who's ever thought about, oh, if I could just make this idea a little bit bigger and have a go, if I could only get a little bit of money, crowdfunding would really work for you. On rewards-based crowdfunding, people pledge money in return for rewards. So a really good example of that is if I had a taxi company and I wanted to sort of set up a taxi company, I'd start my crowdfunding campaign and I'd say, if you give me £10, I'll give you a fare from here to Exeter when I launch my business. Or if you give me £100, I'll give you 10 fares from here to Exeter when I launch my business. So you give a reward as opposed to money. And as I said, through this method, we've now literally raised £4 to £5 million. We've also unlocked millions more and all sorts of other opportunities for the projects that have done a campaign on Crowdfunder. Rewards-based crowdfunding is probably best explained by example. the guy on the right is called Phil, he's from Leeds. The guy on the left is Hugh Fernley Whittingstall from River Cottage. Hugh is actually a shareholder in Crowdfunder, and he's someone we're very close to. Hugh loves this because he thinks it's all about backing community ideas and making great ideas happen, so we're quite close to Hugh. But actually, the story is really about Phil. Phil lives in Leeds, and he wanted to set up a cooperative organic bakery. He needed £8,000 to purchase a bread oven, a little bit like Rio actually, down at Devonport. And he went to the bank and asked them to lend money. This was a couple of years ago, and guess what? The bank said no. So, undismayed, he turned to the crowd. Through Crowdfunder, he managed to raise £8,000 from 114 people. He actually knew the first 30 people, so he reached out to his actual network of friends. And because his friends were genuinely enthusiastic about this idea, they all told their friends, and the idea started to spread, and people got behind Phil's idea and thought this is a great idea and started to chuck in money. So Phil's deal that he was offering people was simple. If you pledge £100, you get a loaf of bread every week for a year. And people thought, well, what's £100? A loaf of bread? Actually, I'll probably spend that on bread, so yeah, why not? It's a no-brainer. He offered the rewards, people really got involved, and the Leeds Bread Co-op was born. And as you can see, he raised just over £8,000, £8,690. So it's a great little story, and it's a really good example of how crowdfunding works for people. The fantastic thing about crowdfunding, we see this in every single project, it's really amazing actually. The benefits to the projects are so much more than just money. So, I mean, obviously the great thing is, if you do a crowdfunding project, you raise money. That's good, obviously that's what you wanted. But actually, it really validates your idea. Because if you put up your crowdfunding campaign for your idea, and people start to back it with money, they must think it's a really good idea, right? So if you launch your idea on the platform and nobody backs it, then maybe it's a bit of a bad idea in the first place. But if people start to back your idea, then they're validating your idea. And what we're seeing is that banks, and actually interestingly, we've just launched an initiative with Virgin Startup Loans, and what they've said is that if a project has crowdfunded itself, it's got a much better chance of getting a loan from us, because the idea was pre-validated. People already think it's a great idea, it's not as risky. So that's a really good benefit. It also gives you the opportunity to market yourself. So if you think about the whole way that you have to do crowdfunding, once you've launched your project and got it up on the site, how are you going to get your money? Well, you've got to go out and start marketing your idea and telling people about it. And you have to make a little video and put it on the site explaining what your idea is and why it's such a good idea and why people should back you. So you're actually starting to learn the skills of entrepreneurial behaviour. You're starting to learn how to market your idea and how to make your business work. So it actually really beautifully teaches you how to start running your business in a really good way. And finally, it really builds advocates for your business. What we've seen again and again is that once people have backed your idea, they turn into massive advocates for you in every single sort of way. So I can remember one example where a chap, he wanted to raise, I think it was £5,000, and he did his crowdfunding and it all went really brilliantly. And one of his backers, his uncle, said, well, you know, I've backed your idea, but why didn't you tell me before? And the guy said, what do you mean, why didn't I tell you before? He said, I would have given you the whole money, and in fact, I'm going to give you the whole money. So he doubled his money by just doing a crowdfunding campaign. His uncle became a massive advocate. Another example is the Manchester Veg Company, who wanted some money to get a van to bring vegetable to Manchester, and they were growing local produce and then shipping it into the city, into the restaurants and cafes of the city. They got around about 300 people who backed their idea, and a lot of those people volunteered to help them run the van. So actually they got a whole kind of volunteer army to help them do that idea. So what crowdfunding does is it really connects people and it aligns communities behind your idea. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing that going to the bank just won't do for you. So that's why I think it overlaps really nicely with things that social enterprise are trying to achieve. Crowdfunder have a really unique secret weapon, our killer application we call it, which is the Crowdfunder Academy. we believe that we are better we know how to crowdfund now better than anybody else in the market. And we know that because our success rates are higher than most other platforms, probably all other platforms. And we also study our data really, really carefully to make sure that we give you the best help and the best advice and support that we can so you can achieve your target. So we work with projects to ensure they have the greatest opportunity to be a crowdfunding success. So on the site, in a simple way, there's lots of online guides and tutorials. We also have a workshop program with Plymouth University. Plymouth University are one of our founding partners, and I have to say they've been absolutely fantastic. They came in, they backed us about 2.5 years ago when literally, as I mentioned, we were back of a fag packet idea, and they supported us and they said, this is a fantastic idea, we're the University of Enterprise and we're going to get behind you. And actually it's been a brilliant combination, they've really helped us. And so we've appointed the world's first crowdfunder in residence, a lovely lady called Heather Foster, who runs the workshops across the city. And so projects and people who are interested in finding out more about crowdfunding can engage with that and learn how to do it. But we have a whole raft of proven tools that help you as a project owner improve your chances of success. So our success rates are in the region of 50 to 60%. So if you're launching a project, you've got a 50 to 60% of hitting your target and being successful. Some of the things we tell you, just to give you little examples, is if you launch your project and nobody's backed it, that actually puts people off. So what we suggest is that if you're going to launch your project, you put some money on, you back the project yourself at the beginning so that people can see that you believe in your idea and you've backed it. We also know that if you get to 40%, so if you get to 40% of your funding target, you're really likely to succeed. So what we'll do then is we'll start ringing you and saying, right, okay, this is what you've got to do this, do that, do the other. So once you get to 40%, we know it's a tipping point. And we know if you keep going, even though it can be a bit hard, you will hit your target. So that's just a couple of examples of the sorts of things that we do. Crowdfunder, as I said, it's not a niche activity anymore. We're attracting some really fantastic partners. So we did our own fundraise about a year or so ago on Crowdcube to raise some money for ourselves. And first on the phone were Creative England, who said, we think this looks great, we'd like to invest, and once we've invested, we'd like to talk to you about how we can support more crowdfunding across the country. So we're working with them to do match funding for projects. So a small example of that was we launched Queen of Code, which is a project to get more girls into gaming. And so if you did a project with our Queen of Code campaign, you could have secured some match funding for your project, and that match funding was supplied by Creative England. But we're also working with people like Santander, as a bank, has come in, it's put up £10,000 worth of match funding money for projects. People like Virgin Startups, a raft of universities. Plymouth was first, hooray! But after them have followed Surrey, Nottingham, and there's various others who would really, really like to come in. We've also working with people like the Cornwall Community Foundation, and they put up £50,000 for projects in Cornwall against a degree criteria. And if you're a project in Cornwall that met their criteria and you did a fundraise, they would match fund the money you raise, so doubling your money. So really, really interesting, a way of sort of amplifying funds. So here's just a few examples of the kind of projects we've done. As I said, we've raised about £4 million. Before Christmas, we did a massive campaign with Kids Company. I don't know if you've heard of Kids Company, but they're a fantastic charity in London, and they look after children, often children who are in trouble, who've got challenges and issues and so on. And they made sure with our massive Christmas campaign that 4,000 children had a Christmas dinner, which is really, really nice. We raised a six-figure sum for them. We've sent British athletes to the Winter Olympics, which was really, really cool, Sochi. And with Snacked, which was a new food product, we helped them raise enough money to get their business off the ground. We've also did a fantastic project in Bristol called The Wave. I don't know if you've heard of The Wave. It's an inland surf lake. So they kind of want it to be like the Eden project, but in Bristol, and it's really cool, it's really surfy. And we've raised 6 figures for them, a hugely successful project for The Wave, and various other things. But we've also done some really interesting campaigns. So I don't know whether you're aware, but Crowdfunder has helped really propel the Green Party to quite heady heights in this election. The Green Party, one of their MPs, or their prospective MPs, came on and did a small fundraise on Crowdfunder. It went brilliantly. They raised way more than they thought. And so suddenly the Green Party thought, this is a great way of raising money for our prospective MPs. So to date, we've now raised £232,000 for prospective MPs for the Green Party, which is absolutely fantastic. UKIP is also at the moment fundraising, if you wish to back them. We are agnostic, I have to say. So that's been quite interesting. That's one of our most successful campaigns in a way, the Green Party. We've also, as I mentioned, did Queen of Code, Creative England, raised 43,000. And with AXA, we have been running a road safety campaign, and we've put up £15,000 worth of match funding for a road safety initiative. That's still going on, so if you have a road safety thing going on, you could access that money. I thought I'd just talk a little bit about our social enterprise campaign. What we like to do at Crowdfunder is bring areas of interest together into campaigns to make them bigger and to amplify the noise around them. We do a lot of marketing, a lot of PR, a lot of social media around our campaigns, and a good way of doing that is bringing things together into something that's quite identifiable that people can relate to. So we brought together a social enterprise campaign recently, and so far to date for social enterprise projects we've raised about £283,000 for different projects across the piece. That includes about 21 projects. A really good example that I thought I'd just talk to you about that might be of interest if you're thinking of engaging in this is the Newquay Community Orchard. It's a lovely, lovely project. They wanted to raise money. Sorry? Okay. They wanted to raise money for their orchard, and their target was £30,000. Absolutely astonishingly, they managed to raise £66,000 for their fantastic orchard. And the way they did it was actually pretty interesting, because actually what they managed to do was get people to offer up match funding. So on the slide here you can see some of the people who, once they heard about the Newquay Community Orchard fundraise, they said, well, if you raise this money, we'll come in and match fund it. So as you can see, the Ashton Trust put up 30,000, the Duchy of Cornwall put up 15,000, the Big Tree Plant 6,600, and Legacy Properties, a property developer, put up £2,000. So that's a really, really interesting little case study of a community project unlocking massive more value for something that it really, really wanted to do. And really the catalyst for it was launching its crowdfunding campaign. I think if it hadn't done a crowdfunding campaign, I'm not sure they would have raised anything like that amount of money. Also, the amount of awareness of the Newquay Orchard in the Newquay area is obviously incredibly high now, because they reached out to people, they did PR, they did social media. People now know it exists, and they've got a natural marketplace for it. Another really nice project that has just closed, it's very recent, is the Mazimas restaurant project at Oval House in London. This is a project to get women back into the workplace. In the area where the Mazimas restaurant is, it's quite a kind of, if you like, tough social environment, and women really struggle to get back into work, especially if they've had children or there's other things going on in their background. Mazimas has given those women an opportunity to get back into work in their restaurant. They set a target of 15,000 and really quickly raised 16,000 just by making lots of noise. They did some great PR. Everybody involved in the restaurant reached out to their friends, and very shortly they raised loads of money. They hit the national headlines with it. It's a fantastic project. And finally, I just wanted to talk to you about Crowdfund Plymouth. I hope you all know about Crowdfund Plymouth. This is a genuinely pioneering thing that we're doing.
we're working in partnership with Plymouth City Council and also Plymouth University. And the thing that is unique about Crowdfund Plymouth is, first of all, it's the first ever city to seek to crowdfund itself. So we're actively looking for projects that want to crowdfund themselves in the city. And we have an ambition to raise £250,000 for projects in Plymouth. And that's a symbolic number because it represents the population of Plymouth. So it's £1 for every resident. That's kind of our thinking. But the thing that's really interesting, it's the first time that a council in the UK has used its community infrastructure levy money, so that's called CIL, and they've made that money available to match fund projects in the city. So that money comes from development money. So when a block of flats is built in the city, the developer has to put up a bit of money and give it to the council to go towards community projects. Previous to us doing this with Crowdfund Plymouth, that money sort of was it's very hard to tell where it went or what happened to it, or who decided where that money went. With Crowdfund Plymouth, if you've got a community project that meets this council's eligibility criteria, you can access match fund money for your project and double your money. So a really good example of that, one of the panel I mentioned it, is Stiltskin. They are a children's theatre company, sort of great community theatre company based in, I think it's Devonport Park, and they hit their funding target. They were first off the blocks in Crowdfund Plymouth, and they've hit their targets, and they're going to access some match fund money. So there's £60,000 worth of match fund money available for Crowdfund Plymouth, but actually if this works, it's fairly certain that the council may put up more money, and you may see other cities also following suit. So if you're a social enterprise project and you'd like to amplify the money you are thinking of raising, this could be a really good way of you doing that. We're also going to be working with schools to try and stimulate more enterprise amongst young people in the city. And also we're going to be reaching out to more social enterprise projects and groups over time. So it's a kind of long-term strategic project for Plymouth, and it's had incredibly good PR so far. And at government level, at central government level, they're looking at Crowdfund Plymouth and they're thinking about, is this something that they could roll out across the UK? So it's something to sort of keep your eye on. So that's really all I wanted to say. If you are engaged in social enterprise, I would really encourage you to look at crowdfunding. It has an incredibly positive, powerful effect for projects. It's not always the only answer. It can be just part of a funding mix of things you do, but I think it's something really, really worth considering, because it can really amplify what you're doing and help align your community behind what you want to achieve. Okay. Thanks very much.